Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned with the Robert E. Howard Show. It's the Robert E. Howard Show once again. And today is a very exciting episode of the Robert E. Howard Show because I got some books in the mail. It's always exciting to get books in the mail, Roger. And the books I got in the mail are extra exciting because they're Robert E. Howard books, and they were sent to me by the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press. The Robert E. Howard Foundation Press, which has published many fantastic volumes of Robert E. Howard. And I haven't talked about the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press too much, if at all, because they are a small press and their books tend to go out of print and sell out. And then after they sell out, they've been pretty tough to get. So I didn't want to talk about a book that was fantastic, but, you would not be able to get it for at least a decent price. And also, I didn't have any Robert E. Howard Foundation Press books. I wanted some, but every time I went on their website to get one of their books, the books that I wanted were sold out. So that's been an issue with the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press until now, that is, because now they've got a fantastic reprint program going on where they're reprinting some of their out-of-print first editions, and they're reprinting them both in hardcover and in paperback. And there are a few of them available now. You can go on Amazon and get them either in hardcover or paperback. And they are fantastic books. The Robert E. Howard Foundation Press prints just magnificent books. They're great. If you're a Robert E. Howard fan, you will love these books. And one great thing about them is that they publish a lot of stuff that was not published in the Del Rey editions. The Del Rey editions, which are probably the ultimate editions of Robert E. Howard's fiction, they published all of Conan and King Kull and Bran Mak Morn and all of Robert E. Howard's most famous series. But there's an awful lot of Robert E. Howard fiction and nonfiction that Del Rey set just didn't cover, which was unfortunate. But the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press did publish a lot of that stuff, and they're continuing to publish that stuff. And now, a lot of this stuff is becoming available to us once again because, like I said, they're reprinting all of their great out-of-print books. And they sent me some of them. And these books are available in hardcover. They're available in paperback. You can go on Amazon and you can buy them. And I do highly recommend these books. They are fantastic. The first book I'm going to show you today is this. This is The Collected Poetry of Robert E. Howard, Volume 1. Now this poetry can be hard or impossible to come by any other way than by getting these books. There have been other volumes of Robert E. Howard's poetry that have been previously published, but nothing this complete. So this is The Collected Poetry of Robert E. Howard, Volume 1. This is the first volume in a 3-volume set. Magnificent cover, by the way. Does it say who the cover artist is? Cover design and artwork by Mark Wheatley. It's fantastic. And so Robert E. Howard's poetry, he wrote a lot of poetry, Robert E. Howard did. But like I said, it's been hard to come by. But now you can get it really easily because it's available. This is the paperback volume. And yeah, there's just a ton of poems in here. Like I said, Robert E. Howard wrote a lot of poetry. And now finally it is available once again to Robert E. Howard fans and fans of fine poetry. So yeah, this is The Collected Poetry of Robert E. Howard, Volume 1. This is awesome. So glad to have this. And like I said, there are 2 other volumes available right now. You can get them right now, and I recommend it. Next, we have The Collected Letters of Robert E. Howard. So this is The Collected Letters of Robert E. Howard, Volume 3, 1933 to 1936, again with a fantastic cover. And again, we have a 3-volume set. We have a 3-volume set of The Collected Letters of Robert E. Howard. Robert E. Howard, he lived back in those olden days when people actually corresponded to each other using real-life letters that they sent in the mail. That's a thing people used to do back in the day. And writers tended to write a lot of letters, and Robert E. Howard, he was one of those writers who had a lot of letters. He wrote a lot of letters to different correspondents. And so you'll find in these 3 volumes all kinds of letters to all kinds of different people, including H.P. Lovecraft and Clark Ashton Smith and so many others. And this is a great way to get to know this writer who created so many fantastic characters and so many amazing stories. This is a great way to get to know him because he puts a lot of himself into these letters, his opinions, his thoughts about the world. If you are really intrigued by this author, Robert E. Howard, I highly recommend these. And it's so wonderful that these are available now to everybody. We can all go and buy this right now. And I do recommend that you do if you are really interested in this writer and you want to know more about this guy. These letters, they're fantastic. I'm so happy that they're printing these or reprinting these. This is fantastic. So the Letters of Robert E. Howard, Volume 3. So that is awesome. Highly recommend that. And I really look forward to reading this, actually, because I've read some of Robert E. Howard's letters, but I certainly have not read as many as has been published in these 3 volumes. So there you go. The Robert E. Howard, the Collected Letters of Robert E. Howard, Volume 3, 1933 to 1936. Fantastic. And this next thing is particularly exciting. This is Steve Harrison's Casebook. Steve Harrison's Casebook. Now, Steve Harrison, even if you're a Robert E. Howard fan, might be a character that you are unfamiliar with. So I will read a little bit of the back on this one. Presenting the complete collection of Robert E. Howard's private eye stories starring Steve Harrison. Everything in this volume, stories, drafts, synopses, were pulled directly from Howard's own typescripts, including an early draft of Graveyard Rats, the most terrifying of Harrison's adventures. In these pages, you will enter a nightmarish world that blends weird mystery and heart-stopping horror, with Steve Harrison as your guide, a powerful man who is more likely to tear into a fight with a mace or a battle axe than a gun. Harrison has more in common with Howard's sword-swinging Conan than Hammett's Continental Op, but he helps to establish the roots of a noir style that would later find success with Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer. Harrison might walk the mean streets and back alleys of the 1930s, but he has the soul of a barbaric savage, possessed by the crimson instinct for slaughter. That is kind of an entertaining blurb there. So yeah, these are detective stories starring Steve Harrison, the detective, but they really have more of a feel of being weird menace stories, weird menace horror stories, extremely pulpy stuff. Now, Robert E. Howard, of course, is the greatest pulp writer of all time, and these are extra pulpy stories. These are a lot of fun. The Steve Harrison's Casebook. These stories they're fun stuff if you like Robert E. Howard and just if you're interested in pulp fiction in general. And this has all of Harrison's stories. Didn't write too much about this character. So this isn't a terribly long book, even with everything. It's 294 pages. But again, if you're interested in Robert E. Howard, I highly recommend this volume. And the last volume I got, I think, in my opinion, is the best. This is just a magnificent book. It's simply fantastic. So this is Swords of the North by Robert E. Howard. And as it says on the bottom here, featuring the complete tales of Cormac MacArt and James Allison. So I've talked recently about the Cormac MacArt stories here on the Robert E. Howard Show, but I've never talked about the James Allison stories, and that would actually be an interesting episode to do. I should do that, but I'm going to read this book first, because this has a lot of material in it that I've never read before, because it has a lot of material in it that just hasn't been published anywhere before, as far as I know. This has a lot of great stuff in it. So much cool stuff in this volume. I will read the back of the volume so you get a sense of what's in here. Robert E. Howard, father of the sword and sorcery genre, built an entire world of fantasy and adventure. He peopled it with legendary heroes, including Conan the Cimmerian and Kull, King of Valusia. While these are Howard's most famous creations, there are many others. Swords of the North collects some of Howard's finest tales of sword and sorcery, including Kings of the Night, The Dark Man, The Valley of the Worm, and more. Also collected in this volume are the complete tales and fragments of two of Howard's lesser-known characters, James Allison, who remembers his past lives as mythical warriors, and Cormac MacArt, the leader of a band of Vikings during the reign of King Arthur. So, yeah, it has a lot of cool stuff in here, and another fantastic cover. And this has a lot of stuff. I mean, it's got the Frost King's Daughter, which is the Amra version of the Frost Giant's Daughter, which was also a Conan story, only in this version it's not a Conan story. We have Valley of the Worm, The Garden of Fear, which I'm really happy they reprinted because that's a great story, and I haven't read it in quite some time. But it's a great story. We have Marchers of Valhalla, The People of the Dark, Kings in the Night, Swords of the Northern Sea, The Night of the Wolf. So much great stuff. We have a long poem, The Ballad of King Geraint, or Geraint. I can't speak or pronounce anything. Sorry, but that was awesome, and I'm glad they reprinted that. The Song of Horses Galley, The Great God Passes is in this. That's a fantastic story. The Gods of Baal Sagoth, as well as The Dark Man. We've got Black Michael's story, Dermod's Bane, the Cairn on the Headland, and Black Harps in the Hills. I mean, just so much great stuff. So this is a pretty good-sized volume. This runs how many pages? 471 pages. So this is great. This is great. I really highly recommend you get this. Like I said, you can get it in hardcover or this paperback edition. And yeah, I can't recommend this highly enough. This is fantastic. And so I got those 4 volumes. They're all available now, but if you go on to the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press website and you check out their first editions and you check out all the ones that are out of print, you will see that there's just some great stuff that's going to be coming our way. There's some books that are still in print in first editions that you can still get in first edition hardcovers because they printed a lot of stuff. They completed and they've printed the complete boxing stories, I believe, of Robert E. Howard. I think they printed them all in 3 volumes. I think the first volume is out of print, so maybe we'll get a paperback of that pretty soon. But that would be great. So much great stuff, which is available. There's a volume that has Robert E. Howard science fantasy stuff, including Almuric, which is really good. Really interesting book. It's kind of his own version of Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars. And so I'm really hoping they reprint that because that would be great. So much cool stuff. So much cool stuff. Has a volume of his Western stories and his straight Western stories, as well as 2 volumes of his humorous Westerns with Breckenridge Elkins. I mean, if you're really interested in Robert E. Howard, you need to check this stuff out. Great stuff. Very much appreciate the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press for sending me these books so I can talk about them to you because it's amazing stuff. Of course, Robert E. Howard, my favorite writer of all time. So it's nice to see a lot of his lesser known stuff be reprinted again, finally, so that we can all read it. Okay, I will shut up now, and I will catch you next time.